We want to give a especially warm welcome tonight to our speaker, Maria Ruth, as she leads us in a celebration of the Pigeon Guillemot, the Salish Sea Guillemot Network, community science, and the joys of one-bird birding. Maria is the author of more than a dozen books on natural historic topics for general audiences, young readers, and naturalists, including Rare Bird, Pursuing the Mystery of the Marbled Murrelet, A Sideways Look at Clouds, and her latest release, The Bird with the Flaming Red Feet, Seasons with an Uncommonly Common Seabird, which focuses on the Pigeon Guillemot, our wildly charismatic Pacific Coast seabird. Whidbey Audubon members and friends are no strangers to Pigeon Guillemots. Since 2003, the PGs have gained a wide and devoted following on the island as the focal species of the Salish Sea Guillemot Network. There are now 250 volunteer community sciences in this ever-expanding network of guillemoteers, and Maria is one of them. The Bird with the Flaming Red Feet is based on Maria's 13 years among the guillemots on the inlet near her home in Olympia. Though her first encounters with the guillemots were centered on data collection, Maria's hour-long surveys led to a curiosity-fueled multi-year exploration of the guillemots and the lives they lived beyond the data sheets. Maria dives deep into the guillemot's behavior, quirky traits, and ecological relationships. It bridges the gap between field guide and memoir, and Maria invites the readers to slow down, look very closely, and reconnect with the wild places and creatures just outside our doors. It's a joyful call to observation, stewardship, and a deeper understanding of the natural world and our place in it. Let's welcome Maria.
Great. Thank you so much for that lengthy, generous introduction. I appreciate it. I am thrilled to be here tonight, here in the epicenter of Guillemot love, the birthplace of the Salish Sea Guillemot Network. It is a thrill to be here. I would like to see a show of hands of how many people have been Pigeon Guillemot surveyors or involved in volunteering with the program. Okay, so a mix. Okay, great. My presentation is going to include some basic information and also some new information. I like to change up my talks quite frequently. So if you have seen me present at Sound Waters University or another group recently, this is a new take on my book and on the Pigeon Guillemot. So the title is The Joy of One Bird Birding, and I did not think I was a birder at all until I met the Pigeon Guillemot. And this is the story of sort of becoming a birder. You never know where a bird is going to lead you. Sometimes the bird is leading you, and sometimes you are following it. And I don't mean literally like following a tree into the bushes or into the redwoods or across the swamp. I mean letting a bird tug at your heartstrings, at your imagination and your sense of purpose in the world. And then deciding to open up your heart to that bird, that one bird, and with fresh intensity, you heed that call. Globally, there are an estimated 11,000 species of birds. The range of each species can be vast. Where to start to find your one bird? You might start with the birds along the coast of your country or your state, or your home waters, such as the Salish Sea, as Frances Wood did back in the late 1990s, when she found herself among the guillemots while having lunch on a beach here on Whidbey Island. The lively, playful Pigeon Guillemots captured her attention, her curiosity, and her imagination. She wanted to know more about the guillemots on Whidbey, but found nothing in the scientific literature. It was as if the Pigeon Guillemots did not exist. So she took matters into her own hands. At a meeting just like this of the Whidbey Audubon Society, she asked if anyone wanted to take a tour around the island by kayak. Of course, we know the story, many of us. The first-hand in the air was that of Dr. Phyllis Kind. Soon, 28 other people raised their hands and off they went on their one bird birding adventure, fueled by high octane curiosity. Little did they know that this bird would lead them, where this bird would lead them, or that they would lead this little known bird into the limelight a few years later as the focus of an exciting new community science project. And little did the great blue heron know that it would soon be cast into the shadows of Logoland. Francis and Phyllis, the dynamic duo, attracted a cadre of equally energetic and devoted volunteers, including Ann Casey and Govinda Holpe, seen here to help with recruiting and training volunteers, promoting and publicizing the program, handling outreach and public engagement, and presenting their research on the Pigeon Guillemot at scientific conferences, as they are in this photo. With their successful and popular community science program, the newly formed Guillemot Research went off island. They began opening satellite opportunities for community scientists in the Salish Sea in 8 regions across the Salish Sea. This ever-increasing number just allowed people to take the Guillemot into their hearts. So here we have just an example. This is the map showing the 65 breeding colonies across 7 regions. This program was so popular, a model community science program. It attracted people all across this region. Each of these icons represents one Pigeon Guillemot colony between 2 and 10 volunteers for a total of 250 volunteers. There is no other community science project like this anywhere. This is extraordinary and unique. And it's special because it allows community scientists to collect data on local and broad scales. And this is what the scientists who used the data needed. The community science program isn't just about volunteers. It's about several organizations that provide financial support, logistical support, includes the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, University of Washington, and other groups that use the data that's collected on the Guillemots. And it's focused on collecting data that the scientists can use, a very key component of this community science project. So we have a simple model for a community science project, which is engage volunteers in their backyards with a local bird, collect data that's useful for scientists, collaborate with and consult those scientists to make sure the data is useful, follow a protocol, and have fun. Mm-hmm. And that has been the vision for this program. And it has attracted so many people to it for all those elements. And it is, as I said, a model community science program. So this is a network, a huge, vast network, well-supported, robust, founded on one woman's curiosity, talent, generosity, perseverance, dedication, and artistry. And just because I'm here today, and here is Francis, I would like, on behalf of all the Pigeon Guillemots and all the living things in the Salish Sea and the surveyors, to thank you for your work. So I first joined the Salish Sea Guillemot Network in 2013. I did not know how to pronounce the name of this bird. I heard so many different pronunciations, and it's typically Pigeon Guillemot, although I've heard Pigeon Guillemots. I've heard Pigeon Guillemots. I've heard Pigeon Guillemots, because it looks like a French word. And there are people that will completely avoid trying to pronounce it. So you hear PGs, Pigu, Paigu, all those, just to get away from pronouncing this word. This is one of the worst things about this wonderful bird, is its very awkward name. So it is not, as you might think, a pigeon at all. It does sort of superficially look like a pigeon, but this is not in the family at all. So despite its misleading first name and its difficult last name, I began learning about the bird and talking about the bird. And I was so enthusiastic about this fabulous, interesting bird. I would talk to anyone about it. And when I mentioned the Pigeon Guillemot, I got a completely blank stare. People don't want to talk about pigeons and they don't know what the guillemot part of the word is. So I tell them it's one of 24 species of seabirds in the alcid family, which includes murres and razorbills and auklets and the puffins. And when I mention the word puffin, I get the same response. Puffins! It's a great bird. Its name is easy to pronounce. It's the rock star of the alcid family.
The wrong color feet.
This has got the wrong color feet. So this is a bird that is familiar because of its plush toys. You see, this is the only alcid that has a plush toy in its image. Little baby puffins are adorably named pufflings. There's puffed rice cereal named after this bird. There are nesting dolls with puffins on them. How about some logo wear for your hot summer night with a matching boxy shorts? And for the ladies, and when it gets chilly, add some socks. And in the winter, how about a hat to winterize? Merchandise is everywhere. The Wingspan card game, I hope you all have played it. The only alcid in there is the puffin. Small children are exposed to alcids. The puffin is the one they learn about. If you give the puffin a muffin, you can build a model Lego of a puffin. You can read about puffins. Small children, barely able to handle beans and glue on a paper plate, are given staplers and make puffins out of paper plates. I am not saying the puffins don't deserve all this attention. They are wonderful birds. They are imperiled in many parts of their range. It just was offensive to me that no one was writing or paying attention to the guillemots. It was as if they didn't exist. They were birds hidden in plain sight. No one talked about them. And here I thought, this is my chance to give some love to the Pigeon Guillemots. So here we are. The birds look nothing alike, as you can tell. Very different personalities, different life strategies. Anyway, so here I am. This is the beach on Eld Inlet outside Olympia where I live. This is where I first met the Guillemots when I signed up in 2013 to survey these birds. I was amazed that these birds, as you can see, I hope, yes, right in the background there they are, just right on the water, close to shore. I've written a book previously about the marble murrelet. You would never see marble murrelets like this, showing up so close and having you can walk past them, you can sit near them, you can watch them. It was an eye-opening experience. So this is my quarter-mile stretch of beach near Olympia. And I never thought, after walking past these bluffs for 10 years before I even met a guillemot, that a guillemot would nest in a place like this. But here, as you know, if you've walked the bluffs here on Whidbey, they nest in holes in the erosional bluffs. And these burrows are their nesting sites. They reuse them year after year. But you could walk past a beach like this and walk past these bluffs and never imagine a seabird would nest in a place like this. So I walked all these beaches, and here I am sitting on the beach learning about these birds that are not puffins and that are not murrelets, that are like no bird I have ever seen. So for those of you who have not had the pleasure to meet a guillemot, let me tell you, it is a seabird. It is a social colonial seabird. It is extremely chatty, extremely social, and extremely fun to watch. They make being a seabird look like fun. They are seabirds. They spend their entire life on the water, except for the brief time they come inland. They sleep, they roost, they feed, they forage on the water. They are pursuit divers like all birds in the alcid family. They dive to the bottom of the seafloor in the benthos where they forage. They do a typical or distinctive zigzagging pattern and probe their bills beneath the rocks and the eelgrass to find small fish and invertebrates, things like sculpin and gunnel and other small fish. So they are adept swimmers. They use their wings to fly underwater. They're powerful swimmers and also use their feet as rudders and also to propel themselves underwater. Now, in the air, they're described as awkward until they're not. They are beautiful acrobatic flyers. During their breeding season, which is when we see them come into shore, they are flying these choreographed circles and loops and loop-de-loops. It's almost like the Blue Angels going up, and they will fly so high that they disappear from view. And then they come swirling and crashing and circling back down, landing in the water, continuing their chase under the water, coming back on the water, skittering across the water. They are high energy birds and very, very entertaining to watch. So here they are coming so close to shore. This is a picture taken by Shannon Bolt, one of our regional coordinator for the Salish Sea Guillemot Network. And I have to say that all the slides in the show are from local surveyors, photographers, Lachlan Pope being one of the best, most generous people with his fabulous photographs of guillemots all around Whidbey Island. Shannon Bolt, who covers lots of territory. Govinda Holtby, who covers the birds on Whidbey and other places. And Hillary Smith, who's out in Clallam County. So they've been super generous with allowing me to share my photographs and share their photographs in my book and here in my presentation. So here we have the guillemots gathering, very social, very chatty. Hillary has captured a lot of their very energetic behavior known as water games. So during the breeding season, they have come from offshore where they spend their time sort of isolated in pairs in a very different dusky kind of gray mottled and white plumage. They come inland and they are reacquainting themselves with each other. So they are finding mates. They are figuring out who's approachable, who's not, who's mateable, who's not, who's female, who's male. So it's a very active, sort of aggressive seeming, chasing, courting, flirting, fighting mess on the water. Very entertaining to watch. A lot of splashing and turmoil going on. And here we've got two birds chasing each other across the water. One particularly aggressive duel here, which is like, I know. Yeah, and I write in my book, I didn't know that laughing while birding was possible, but this is the bird. It's so entertaining, and they're sort of awkwardly hilarious. It's like they don't know where their bodies are in the water sometimes. Well, when they come to land, they're extremely vocal, and they have a wide range of vocalizations, whistles, trills, short chip calls, and we'll talk about that in a little bit more. But they are climbing up on the rocks. They're on the beach. They're on the driftwood. They are coming closer and closer. And for a non-birder, this is a great bird to start with. If you're going to do one bird birding, it's known as the accessible alcid because it does come so close to shore and has a relatively high tolerance for human presence. So they will nest under stairways, going up to houses on the bluffs, and lots of different places. That shows how sort of adaptable their nesting sites are. But they are so frolicking on the beach early in the season, which is right about now, finding their mates, hanging out on the rocks, mating on the rocks. They are not shy about displaying their behavior. It's like the water and the rocks are their stage, and we are in the audience watching all their behaviors, including mating quite close to the shore, maybe perhaps a little too close to the surf. And some of you in the room might be old enough to remember this scene from Here to Eternity. Well, yes, it does. So for the guillemots, this is sort of from here to maternity. So we have now a nesting pair. They've mated, they've made their pair bond, and they're moving into their burrow. These burrows, we believe, are first excavated by kingfisher or other birds and modified by the guillemots. They really don't have the anatomy, the foot structure, or the bill strength to dig their own burrows, but they do modify them. So here they are in their burrow in the nest. They do not add any material to the nest. They don't build a nest like a nest cup with grass or seaweed. It's just basically in this earthen burrow. And here we have they're two speckled eggs. They're about the size of a chicken egg, a small chicken egg. This is many alcids lay just one egg, but the guillemot has an opportunity for raising two chicks. And here we have, it's a guillemotling. Doesn't quite have the ring as puffling, but you get the point. So this is a picture. This is not part of our Salish Sea Guillemot Network research. This is from a scientific study of birds in artificial nest boxes where they're banded and studied on the Farallon Islands off the coast of San Francisco. So this is a cute little downy chick. This is the sign of a successful nesting season. So those chicks are fed by both parents. The egg is incubated by both parents, and they begin bringing in small fish that they select for size of the chick to match the size of the fish, so that they don't give their chick too large a prey item and cause choking. So they imagine the guillemots diving down thinking, okay, my chick is 2 weeks old. I need a fish that's about 3 inches long, right? Oh, it's 3 weeks old. Now I need a little bit bigger fish. That kind of precision is just, we kind of take it for granted that these chicks are just getting fish, but they're very specific in the size that they bring in for their chicks. And we see these prey being delivered. The adult guillemots typically eat their food for themselves. They hunt and eat their prey underwater. But it's when they come to the surface, back to the colony from their foraging grounds, where they sit on the water and wait and wait and wait and wait, holding that prey item in their beaks, waiting for something. We're not really sure what, maybe for the coast to be clear, to make sure there are no predators nearby or potential predators nearby, to make sure there's nothing strange happening near the burrow, or there's a surveyor who's not looking like a piece of driftwood, but wiggling around. So the guillemots are very wary before they make that flight into the burrow with their fish. And gives us a good opportunity to count the prey and identify it as well. So after about 30 days, we have a young juvenile pigeon guillemot on the water. You can see it's got this sort of mottled plumage. This is sort of similar to the winter plumage, but you've got the young pinkish mauve, if that's a color anymore, foot in the back, not the bright red color. So if you were out on the water in, say, August or September, you might see a bird like this and not know what kind it is, because it really doesn't quite look like an adult guillemot in breeding plumage or a winter guillemot. It could be a rare sighting of a guillemot fledgling. And here, this is the winter plumage, a very different look and a very different behavior from the raucous auks, the alcids of the summer season. This is what I found on the few boat trips I've done. This is a very quiet, peaceful, serene bird in this beautifully muted plumage. It's a lovely, lovely contrast to the summer birds.
What are they doing now?
They are coming inland right now. Yeah, and some of them might be checking out. It depends. Where I am in South Sound is a bit different from Whidbey. All our sites are a little bit sort of out of sync and have their unique timing and their unique egg laying. So they are coming in now. I saw them coming over from Coupeville on the, from Port Townsend on the ferry. They are definitely, I saw a duet flight as well. I saw some, behavior on the water. We've seen birds where I am in South Sound mating a month ago. And also just yesterday, mating on a round buoy. Yeah. So that's what they're doing now. And they will be inland and active until probably late August. Yeah. So here, after the season of the successful season of breeding and hopefully fledging chicks, the guillemots molt that dark black or brownish black and white plumage and morph into their more subtle sort of smudgy gray. Yeah. So I would not have become a one bird birder all by myself. I would not have gone out onto the beach in my silly red shoes and watched guillemots for 12 years. I joined this Salish Sea Guillemot Network, and that really changed the way that I see the guillemots. And it's only because of the Salish Sea Guillemot Network that I know anything about pigeon guillemots. And I am truly grateful for this program, for introducing me to this bird, allowing me to make a really deep dive into understanding its life during its breeding season, and also some part in the off season as well. I'm not the only one surveying at my site. I have a very raucous group of very curious, very enthusiastic guillemoteers, I call them. We're like the Three Musketeers, but only we brandish our binoculars and not our muskets, I guess. So this is my team. I'm just very, very pleased that these people, and I think throughout the Guillemot Network, we have channeled the enthusiasm and curiosity and joy that Francis and Phyllis and the whole leadership team has modeled. And it's just been so wonderful to be part of that, and to have so many people in the South Sound and throughout the whole Salish Sea just experiencing this one bird in such a joyful way. We also do some surveys in the winter. We also, as our team, get together in the off season and have what we call Gilly Galas, which of course, because the alliteration is so fun, but we'll bring food and coffee and just share stories and birding adventures. And we'll usually do a little bit of looking for those early season guillemots. We also, of course, have T-shirts, and we have like a team picture every year. We kind of go a little bit crazy on it. So part of birding in a community, one bird birding in a community, would be very different from one bird birding by yourself. So being in a community and sharing that curiosity and sharing your observations is so gratifying. I just hadn't experienced that for one bird. I know being in a birding group and sharing all your sightings and seeing so many birds is a wonderful experience too. But I find this suits my personality, which I guess is sort of, I can do one thing at a time, one bird at a time. It just suits my interest in birds and understanding them and their environment at a sort of, I guess, a deep level. So we collect data. This is the main purpose. One of the main purposes of our the Guillemot Network is to collect data that is useful and used by scientists. So we have a simple 2-page data sheet. We collect data on how many birds there are, how many visits they make to the burrow, how many fish they carry in, what types of fish, and what things might be disturbing them. Eagles, typical example, a potential predator, other predators like hawks, surveyors, motorboats, beach walkers. We take notes of all of that, and we submit all this data. So across all of our sites, 250 people are submitting multiple pages of data as neatly as possible, and it gets quality controlled, it gets analyzed, it gets summarized, it gets reviewed, and then with some artistry by the wonderful Dave Krause, it gets turned into really beautiful data slides. So these are shared at the end of the year at our end of season celebration. And this is a great moment for all the surveyors, because individually, all our hours on the beach, 1 hour a week for 10, 12, sometimes more weeks, all of a sudden takes on much bigger significance. And our 1 hour becomes part of something, a bigger whole, an important amount of science, a critical mass of data that can be analyzed and used. And we get a big picture of what's going on outside our own colony. My team. Let me talk a little bit about my team. Extremely curious. The data sheets were not making my team happy, because being the curious people there, I have scientists on the team, I have a writer, I have some photographers, I have an immunologist, I have a lawyer, I have some more biologists, and they see everything. And when you're sitting on the beach looking at one bird, you're not just seeing that one bird, you know that. So you're seeing everything in their environment. You're looking at the tides, at the clouds, at the other birds, at the mammals. You're seeing the orcas, you're seeing the white-sided dolphin, you're looking at the shore crabs, you're looking at the little sand fleas, you're watching the kingfishers. You just becomes extremely busy, rich environment. And my team could not believe the scientists didn't want to know about everything they saw. So they filled out the data sheet and then they began writing all around the edges of the data sheet with all the things they saw. And I kept telling them, the scientists just don't want to know this. They just can't use that data. And they were crestfallen. So I said, okay, well, why don't we get some extra paper and you can write all your observations on those extra papers. So now as the team lead, I received all the data sheets and the piles of paper, including 2 pages for just one survey of all the things that we're seeing. And I might have thought, oh, let's recycle this. But these stories and these observations were really important for me to ground truth what I was seeing. And many of the stories and the observations informed the stories in my book and are part of the stories. And my goal for this book was really to elevate the voices in our community. The power of one, very powerful, as we see from what Frances has built here. But everyone in this room, every one of my team members, everyone in the Salish Sea Guillemot Network has that power to contribute information, their perspective, their knowledge, their point of view. So that's what my book highlights, is the beauty of community science as a multiple voice, inclusive study of a bird to balance and enhance the scientific knowledge. It's part of the conversation. We don't just have data. We have this beautifully informed knowledge about the Pigeon Guillemot from these 250 people, 500 eyes, 500 ears, all looking at this one bird. There we go. So one of the things that we wanted to know about outside the data, this is sort of extracurricular research because we were just sort of abundantly curious, was about guillemot communication. So there was a study done in the 1980s about the guillemot's body postures that they pair with specific calls. So these birds are communicating using body language and their voices to communicate specific messages to each other. And a scientist named Douglas Nelson wrote a beautiful paper on this. He drew sketches of the bird's postures, and he recorded on some what we would now call primitive recording equipment the calls and turned them into what we would also call now primitive sonograms. So the little squiggly lines that you know about that show the frequency and duration of the phone of the calls. So we had this very old paper. No one was using it to understand what the guillemots were doing at our colony or other colonies that I know about. So here's a posture, very distinct. The bird is up on its toes, its wings are held back, its head is perpendicular, its mouth is open. It is agitated, it's alarmed, and it is issuing this very long, whistling, down slurring scream call. So what do we do with that information? Oh, whoops, I was going to play it. Let's see if it works. Oh, not okay. Well, it's a down slurring scream call. I'll just put that. I would impersonate it, but I would need to put a whistle in my throat to do that. So I will not do that. It's a high pitched call. So we have these really old sonograms, and we have some sketches that don't really reproduce well. But I wanted to tell and share the story about these vocalizations. So one of our team members, Susan Morgan, decided she was going to sketch them. So using the data, the papers that I had given her, and her own observations and her photographs of the guillemots, she sketched out these communication postures. Another member of our team, Rachel Holland, had made herself for $200 what would have cost $3,000 in the store, a recorder, a parabola recorder for recording bird calls. So she's got a microphone in there. It's a plastic bowl from a dollar store, some felt, an old sock, a shampoo bottle, and some hot glue. And she made this recording device, took it down on the beach, and recorded guillemots on the water, in the nest, created the sonograms, processed the calls, These calls are now posted on the Macaulay Library. They're on eBird and are on Xenocanto. Some of the first calls that are labeled as calls of the chicks in the nest, which is just super exciting. So we've got Rachel producing these calls, but what you get, so now we have these postures, a photograph of these postures, and we have these sonograms that are not going to look really good in the book I want to do. How do I communicate these? So I found a local calligrapher in Olympia, and I provided her with Rachel's calls, some of the recordings, and that 1980s paper with the old sonograms in it. And using a special kind of sumi ink, a really dark saturated ink, and a special pen, she created these calls that were reproduced in my book. So we've got now kind of the artist here. So now we have Susan's postures and Sally's calligraphy based in the science presented in my book. Here we have now art telling a story that was sort of buried in the scientific literature. So I want to put it in a plug for this voice in the conversation for artists to contribute their views and their talents. In the back of the book are the explanations of each of those pairings of calls. It was really important for me to include art in the book, just to bring that other voice in, to make my book look unlike a field guide where you get rather static but very nice pictures of the winter plumage, the summer plumage, and the immature, or the male and the female. That doesn't really capture the essence, the energy of a pigeon guillemot. So the photographs in the book tell part of that story, capturing scenes that we could not see. These are very active birds. Often you'll just see a big splash, but people like Lachlan and Hilary and Govinda have captured pictures like with a high shutter speed of birds in action, like some of those pictures you saw earlier. We can't see those with the naked eye and not with binoculars. So including those, I just feel really grateful to have those pictures in the book. So we also have some artwork, some not photographs. And this was important to me too, because art does a fabulous job communicating science to new audiences and different audiences. This is a scratchboard piece done by Madison Mayfield. She is the assistant collections manager of ornithology at the Burke Museum and in Seattle at University of Washington. And she has access to the study specimens. She knew about the pigeon guillemots. So she created this scene that we would never see. This is out of her imagination, but based in science. To try to see a scene like this, we would be disturbing the guillemots and they would flush. We would never see this. This is a beautiful scene of an adult feeding a chick with maybe the second parent nearby. But this is an imagined scene that really helps us understand what the guillemots might be doing in the burrows, back in there where we can't see them. A very different piece of art in the book is this bright red, flaming red lino cut print by Mike Johns. Mike is a senior scientist with Point Blue Conservation. He is studying the pigeon guillemots and doing research on the Farallon Islands, and gave a speech to the Guillemot Network on his research. He said about this print that he wanted to sort of isolate the guillemot in its ocean environment, in the water. He said, this is a seabird. Most of us experience these birds when they come to shore, when they're easy to see, when they're in the land during their breeding period. But these birds are seabirds first and foremost. And he was drawing attention to that fact and to the need for our consideration of the guillemot's needs to include their sea environment. What do they need? Where are they going when they molt? What do they need in their ocean? What kind of fish do they need? We often just think about their breeding behavior, but seeing them out in their ocean environment and considering that part of their environment too is very, very important for conservation. So Mike was the one who tagged birds with geolocator devices and found that they were going from the Farallon Islands, so about 30 miles off the coast of San Francisco, after breeding season, up the coast, north to Haida Gwaii, hanging out there for a couple months, probably during their molting into their winter plumage, and then from there, flying to Alaska. Who goes to Alaska in the winter? the guillemots. So this really surprised them, new data, but he said this makes it really important. Like, what about that area off of Haida Gwaii? It's not a nesting territory for those birds, but that needs to be protected as their molting grounds. This is a piece by the feather artist, Chris Johns, who lives in Olympia. His view here, he has extremely playful view. This is a sculpin. And at first you're going to say, wow, that looks like a really large fish. This is the sculpin's eye view of the guillemot. So of course the sculpin thinks it's really big, right? And it's looking up and seeing, all it's seeing are these outsized feet of the pigeon guillemot. So anyway, so just a playful view. And I have a whole chapter on prey and their life. It's a life of a gunnel and what it's like. We don't think about prey except as, oh, great, it got a fish. We don't think about the life of that fish and how that is so important and to the life of the guillemot. So I spent a whole chapter talking about that, but I just love this piece just to sort of turn the tables on who's the prey and who's the predator here. And of course, this lovely watercolor by our very own Frances Wood. And I love this picture because it makes me feel like I'm the guillemots, right? I mean, we all sit on the beach looking at the sunsets, right? Just peacefully, calmly looking at the sunsets. And here we are probably sitting behind the guillemots, looking at the guillemots, looking at the sunset, right? What are they thinking? You know, are they just looking at the environment the way we are? Are they looking for prey? Are they enjoying the sunset? It just makes me feel so closely connected to these birds in this sort of peaceful moment. And it's a different view from this sort of raucous behavior of these birds. And beyond my book, this is quite the year for the pigeon guillemot. Govinda has put out a book called Grateful Birds, which is a hilarious, wonderful, quirky, if I might say, book connecting the lyrics of the Grateful Dead songs to certain birds. So we've got the song Cassidy is the one that channels the energy of the pigeon guillemot through the lyrics. So this is a super fun book. We also have Frances's blank journal, which I love because it features her watercolors and of course the guillemot on the cover, but it's really an invitation for people to write their own stories and to do their own sketches, whether it's a guillemot or not. Everyone has a guillemot in their lives, whether it's a guillemot or not, that special one bird that sort of attracts you in a special way. And weirdly enough, it turns out that guillemot fanaticism isn't just sort of runs in my family, I guess. My brother has read my book and wrote a song called "The Bird with Flaming Red Feet." It might be the only Alcid rock song on the planet, but this is out. And it's I have a flyer that has where you can listen to it. But it's a super fun song. It's based on the book and his sort of interpretation of my story in the book. And from even more ridiculous is the procession of the species at the Arts Walk in Olympia. We have a two-day event, and this year we decided 28 of us to dress up like pigeon guillemots in our flaming red tights and webbed feet and big felt beaks. This is a procession where there are thousands of people on the sidewalks of Olympia. And so we're zigzagging through with hundreds of other groups of animals. It's all animals and plants and sort of ecosystems and, fire, earth, water, whatever the other thing is, air. So we're in a bunch of seabirds and we're following along a bunch of lotuses, people dressed up as lotus flowers. So anyway, it was really fun and just, it got the word out. People were sort of amused, but I heard people saying, "Oh, pigeon guillemots, pigeon guillemots." It's like all of a sudden people are talking about pigeon guillemots. Before they wouldn't even say the word and they didn't even know the bird. So I think the word is getting out. And Frances's goal to have everyone know what a pigeon guillemot, I think it's we're kind of getting there. So despite all the attention that we give to the guillemots, despite our art, despite our data collection, our stories, our art, and our songs, the guillemots are their own bird, completely unaware of all our effort. And this is a beautiful thing for a wild bird. And if I can, I'm going to read you the epilogue of the book. This is called A Guillemot in Winter. And these are the birds in their winter plumage. I think I can do it. Thank you. Fourscore. Oh, no, wait a minute. That's the wrong one. All right. This is A Guillemot in Winter. As the shortest day of the year rapidly approaches, and the dark and the cold drive many animals who do not migrate into a state of hibernation, estivation, dormancy, or torpor. Many of us human vertebrates feel the urge for late mornings, afternoon naps, and the occasional hunkering down. While other animals may be resting, hundreds of thousands of pigeon guillemots remain on the coastal waters of the North Pacific Ocean, fully alive amid rain, sleet, snow, wind, and whitecaps. The sun has moved these guillemots through the year and returned them to a place where they garner their energy for survival. The guillemots are not migrating, not molting, not breeding. They are there on the wintering grounds in their pale plumage. They are diving and foraging for food, resting and roosting on the water. They are paddling around and flying short distances over the water. They are in their place, sheltering in place, being sheltered only by the feathers on their bodies. They are waiting, but not waiting. They are biding their time, free from our attention, knowledge, and passion. The pigeon guillemots are simply being the seabirds they are, as the earth and seas spin, carrying us together into a new year. I would like to take a question.
Can you tell female from male?
Great question. The question is, can you tell a male from a female? The guillemots can. The guillemots can, not necessarily. I heard that. They are considered monomorphic. So we believe if we looked really, really closely at them, we could tell individual differences between birds. But the comment that the male would be on top is probably true. So if you catch them mating, you can tell that. However, I have seen a stack of 3 guillemots. So that makes me wonder which one is there. So anyway, yeah.
Which one?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Yes.
Lots of photos when you showed the guillemots in their winter plumage. The one on the extreme left had a almost white face with a black eye, and the others are all smudgy.
Yeah.
So is this a difference in age, maybe?
That's a great question. The question, if you all heard it, is about why is this bird on the far left look so different? They are all individual birds with sort of slight variations in their plumage. It could be age, it could be hormones, it could be diet. I'm not really sure what it is. We have seen birds, they're all in winter plumage here, but we have seen birds in summer and winter plumage next to each other, and then a whole span of molting feathers in between. You wouldn't even recognize them as pigeon guillemots. And I had one of my presentations has a lot of those variations, but it's a little overwhelming. The red feet are the cue in that, are the tip for, identifying the guillemots. But yeah, and if you look even here, you can see in every picture I look at now, I see the white wing patches are really different. So I think we actually could identify individual birds. The trick is if they're not banded and you don't recapture them, you really don't know, this is the same bird that you're seeing. So yeah, that's a great question. But they're all kind of in different stages of molt kind of throughout the year. Yes.
So are their throats red all year long?
The inside of their mouth, the lining, yeah. I believe so, yes. Yeah, Francis, do you know about, has anyone looked inside a guillemot's mouth in winter in the room?
The color will fade.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so the color, like their feet, will go a little bit kind of grayish, a little grayish pinkish. So Francis is saying the mouth lining does as well, but
And then I have another, I'm
Sure.
curious about your journey as an author and a citizen, kind of how your trajectory as an individual into this specificity.
well, what was,
Well, but you know, what you're doing is so very
Oh.
specific, but I'm just curious about your journey as a writer and an observer.
yeah, so I guess I started writing books on natural history and it was just very, very general. I'm a person with a very old BA in English and started writing sort of by accident. Someone asked me if I could write a book on butterflies and I said, sure, you know, why let the fact that I don't know anything hold me back? So with that attitude, I just kind of plunged forward and I started writing, you know, doing my own research and writing, not as a scientific researcher, but my own, you know, book reading. And then I caught wind of this little bird, the marbled murrelet, and its story of the discovery of its nest, which took about 185 years. It's an alcid that nests as far as 55 miles inland in mature old growth forests up in the top branches. And I thought, why have I never heard of this bird? And what a crazy life strategy, right? What a crazy strategy. And this was a bird that had just been listed as endangered. And I thought, I need to tell this story. And so that book was focused on the scientific research. This is not a community science bird at all. So that was a really great plunge into telling a couple stories that had not been told before. And I just loved that deep focus. And that was when I was living in Southern California, moved to Olympia and met the clouds. 228 days a year of clouds in Olympia. And I thought I have to make friends with these clouds, right? So I thought, all right, let me just get to know the clouds. And I realized, well, I don't know anything. And again, why let the fact I don't know anything hold me back? I'm not a meteorologist, but I wrote a book on clouds. And I just really enjoy that long, and we're talking 5 to 8 years for a book. You know, I'm doing other things at the same time, but you laugh. This is my husband, the wage earner. Because,
Lots of them.
yeah, anyway. And then honestly, my connection with the Guillemot is because opportunistically, I believe that if I sat on the beach and looked at guillemots, I could also be studying the clouds. And that was like, so I was looking at guillemots and then, of course, taking pictures of the clouds, you know, before and after the survey and maybe during once, but, and then all of a sudden I'm like, wait, what clouds, right? And the guillemots just took over and that story. And I just like the one bird birding idea was just so compelling. And again, to do it in a community, and tell a bigger story. And the marbled murrelet and the guillemot, essentially a completely different birds, completely different stories. There was no plot for the guillemots. They're just out there, right? I mean, lots of small, interesting stories, but there was no dramatic story like with the marbled murrelet and being listed as endangered and the whole logging and conservation conflict. So, but that allowed me to go much deeper and to do things like include art, include other voices, and tell many stories over the period of the guillemots, my research.